Coach, you kind of touched on it a little bit when you met with us earlier this week about being a good sign, your team winning some close games down the stretch and making the clutch plays. You guys did that again today. Just how much confidence I talked to Jaden about how much confidence you think it gives them to be able to come up with the plays down the stretch.
What'd he say?
He said it was good.
All right, okay.
Getting confidence.
All right. Yeah, we've had a lot of them. And, I said it before the season, and obviously you've been saying it since, that I'd anticipate us, being in these situations a lot. And we didn't do great on the first handful or two or three that we had. We came out in the wrong end, and then we've learned and grown with this group. And they're making better decisions and understanding how valuable these possessions are as the clock, dissipates before the final buzzer. So, it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game, but it's hard to play against that group, with their length and their athleticism. And tonight, this afternoon, they really switched up their presses, and we gave them confidence. We started turning it over too much, and so they went all in, on pressing us, the majority of the game, and we had a mixed bag of results, and we got to get better at that.
We'll go to Danny P. to the second row, coach's right.
Coach, I know it's always good to have a veteran in the game in those late game stretches to make plays. Just how pleased were you to see Sean Jones produce there at the end?
Yeah, we subbed him in there. I don't think four or 5 minutes left. Maybe it was 3 or 4, and he was the primarily the guy that was throwing the inbounds passes, and there's a lot of pressure on that guy, and we want to keep Epps and Hubbard, with the possibility of getting fouled there down the stretch. And Sean, did a good job. That's not what he does all the time, but with the lineup we had in and where we were at in the game, we felt that we needed to have him be the trigger guy, and he's been around and understands the value of all the possessions and, the pass and catch part of the game when it gets down like that. And then he just kept us organized. We switched defenses a couple times, and he was communicating with his teammates and making sure we were all on the same page.
We'll go front row, middle to Colin, and then we'll go next to him to Jacob.
Talk to Jaden about how his block going into the final minutes kind of started a good defensive run for you, and it was also a period where there were a bunch of timeouts from both teams and play was kind of starting and stopping. How was your group able to kind of pull through that and come out the other side the stronger team there? Yeah,
I'm a little nervous that Epps going to think he's a shot blocker now. He had one in the first half. Was it the first half or second half that they called a foul on, which was, I didn't think it was, but I'm sure the ref was surprised looking at him going, I've had you before and that's not your game. But I love how, he's playing. I know that's not what you asked me about, but he is so bought in and locked in to our program and being the best version of himself. His productivity for us for the last 4 or 5 games has been off the chart, on both ends. He wasn't known as a defender, but he's really improved in that end of the floor, and I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him, and he wants to win. Everybody wants to play, and everybody wants to get their minutes, and everybody wants to produce, but he's bought into what we're doing and bought into winning and doing whatever he needs to do. And then, at the end of the game, it felt more like last year when we had all the reviews, and certainly that's not the case most of the games this year, which is nice. The one time they had to look at a possible flagrant, so that kind of showed us up or slowed us up, and then they had a point discrepancy as well. So that's not the norm, but they give us more time to talk to them. I mean, to be honest with you, at that point you run out of things to talk about other than my assistants getting in my ear and all having something else they want me to talk about with the team. But that's just the way it goes sometimes.
You guys held Memphis to 66 points. So kind of just brought me through. What do you feel like you guys did well on defense tonight?
Yeah, we got off to a great start. Got the scout into the game. The score, 2 games in a row now, we've got off to a great start, especially on the defensive end. And we're assignment correct. We're assignment correct, and got our personnel scout in the game, got how we were guarding some of their actions into the game. And the game was more cookie cutter then, and then it changed. It changed that long 3 they made. That's on us. That was not what we wanted to do. We went too early. There's only 1 second differential between the game clock and the shot clock, and we went too early, and we gave them too much time. I know it was still close to a half quarter. I don't remember exactly where he shot her from, but that took the sails out of the first half because, we had played to a bigger lead than that. It was only 4, and I thought we had played better than than that, and that's always a scary thought. But you know, they came out in the second half and got it going again, and then it got dicey. You know, and the last thing I told them, one of the last things I told them, I think it was 4:50, 5:15, something like that. We're like, hey, we've done this multiple times now. You know, we were down 13 against New Orleans with 5. We were down with LIU with under 5, 4, and some change. And we won both them too. Okay, we're down 3. It's all good. Just stick with the plan, keep competing, and we'll figure it out.
We'll go back to Paul here on the aisle.
Coach, I think Achor had 8 points and 4 or 5 rebounds in 10 minutes of action. Would you say that was one of his best efforts here in the last month or so?
Yeah, I think so. I'm proud of the fact that he stuck with it. You know, he's not playing at the level that, you know, he anticipated nor that he wants to, and us either. But he hasn't pouted. He hasn't hung his head. He kept working. You know, he's been out of the starting lineup all year long. And even though his stat line didn't jump out at you in the last game, on the video, he did some really good things from a defensive perspective, from tipping balls on the offensive glass that don't show up on the stat sheet. And, you know, hopefully this is something, you know, going into the break he can feel good about and then come back and, you know, just be even better.
Time for a few more. We'll go back to Colin front row.
With Josh, I think it was the 7-minute mark in the second half. He finally got a shot to go, but after that, it looked like he was back to normal. What were they able to do to kind of frustrate him, apart from the double teams and the high pressing? And what did you see from him that he finally got through all that?
Yeah, they obviously had his, you know, name in red circled, and he's used to that. He's done that for, you know, 2+ years now. Someone asked me on the radio, what, you know, was the length of the athletes, and I mean, he plays in the SEC, so, you know, he's been through all that. He understands what it's like to play against that now. It reminded me of the Utah game a little bit, you know, because he struggled offensively in that game, and then he made 2 big baskets down the stretch, and it was very similar. You know, we still went to him. He's our guy. He jumped up and made that 3, you know, Josh Hubbard special there right in front of the bench. And then he was, you know, I don't know if he made them all down the stretch. He missed 1, I know, but he made 7 out of 8 from the line. And we stuck with him, and he stuck with it. And but in terms of any problems early, I mean, they just were throwing everything at him. They weren't letting him breathe. They were trapping him, and they're long and they're athletic. And the court looks different than when you're handling the ball and you got, you know, athletes that are trapping you like that.
We'll go back second row. Danny P. Wrap us up.
Coach, it seemed in the second half you tried to get your bigs involved more, and just talk about what you saw there in the post.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line. You know, we don't throw the ball in the post, obviously, as much as we've had in the past. But, you know, when Q gets it 2 feet in the paint, he's encouraged to, you know, get his balance if he doesn't have it and, you know, turn and throw a right or a left hook because he's got great touch. We have a difficult time sometimes of working out the timing of getting him the ball where we think he needs it to be as productive as he needs to be. And then, you know, Jamar right now, we haven't thrown the ball much to him back to the basket, but both those guys, you know, their worth and what they bring to the table have nothing to do with how many baskets they're scoring, with Jamar being able to have multiple different ball screen defenses and Q being, you know, a rim protector when he's really, really rolling and his motor's going. But, you know, they're doing exactly what we asked them to do.
Thank you guys. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, guys. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you.